manager. And also I want to thank the RSU 16 administrators and central office staff for their presentations and their presence at our meetings, because as a budget committee we asked a lot of them. And our budget committee reviewed every line and every department budget, and we discussed priority items in detail. We looked at the tax impact of a variety of proposals, and we recommended a draft budget to the RSU 16 school board on April 10th. And following some public participation at that meeting, a budget was approved for presentation at an informational meeting that took place on April 26th, and feedback from that informational meeting was taken into consideration on May 8th before a final school board vote on the budget. And that's the budget that is before you this evening. And the 2017-2018 budget development process was challenging. Reductions in general purpose aid, increasing costs, some unfunded mandates, resulted in some proposed staff reduction, cuts in books and supplies and professional development, and in other areas. So instead of a budget committee and a school board that were discussing programs, additions and improvements, we ended up spending a lot of time prioritizing cuts. And also, as a result of the state revenue uncertainty, the budget committee and the school board developed a warrant article for your consideration that authorizes the use of additional subsidies if they become available. And you'll hear more about that during Tina's presentation, and then we'll also discuss it more when that warrant article comes up. So this is the point where we need to choose a moderator for this evening's meeting, and then that moderator will be sworn in by Ms. Meserve. So, Tina, stall for time. Stalling for time right now. I think we have a little technical difficulty going.
What do you need to?
We have to work on the stall for time process. So the first order of business tonight is for us to nominate a moderator for the meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Colleen Quint as moderator. Second.
Okay, Colleen, if you'd come up, we'll... oh, yes, we want to vote on that. Okay, thank you. So we have a first motion, and we also have a second. So we need to, do we need to have some discussion? Any discussion before we take a vote? All right, I think we're ready to vote. All in favor? Opposed? All right, I think we're ready to swear you in. Colleen, do you solemnly swear to faithfully perform the duties of moderator for the RSU 16 budget meeting in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of the state of Maine?
I do. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, everybody. It's been a year or two since I've had the chance to be up here, so I'm glad to be back and looking forward to a good and smooth process, I hope, this evening. One very quick word of business at the outset. If folks could please silence their cell phones, which I'm double checking right now to make sure I have also done. The last time I did this, I remember early in the meeting I heard the dulcet tones of Sweet Child of Mine coming from the audience. And as much as I love Guns N' Roses as much as the next gal, I think probably smoother if we don't have the cell phones going off. So what I usually do at the beginning of these meetings is just a reminder to folks, we only do this once a year. Not everyone comes here each year, so I want to make sure folks understand what the process is like. How this meeting works is it's very similar to a town meeting. Only registered voters can vote. You should have checked in on arrival with the voting clerk and gotten a packet of information, including these little red cards, which I saw a number of you using a minute ago. If for some reason you don't have a packet and this little card, you should go check in at the front desk up there. As with the town meetings for municipal matters, voters may not talk without being recognized by the moderator. And I ask that all questions be directed to me as the moderator, and then I in turn can direct them to the appropriate party. We'll use the main moderator's manual as the guide, and in a few minutes I'm going to ask the superintendent to thoroughly explain the budget, and then we go through and discuss each warrant article one by one. When we do that process, I'll read and request a motion on the first article. When you make a motion, it's very helpful for the record. We have somebody here keeping minutes. If you would identify yourself when you make the motion. Once the motion is seconded, again, please identify yourself when you're seconding it. Then a discussion on the motion ensues. And then prior to the actual vote, then I will read the article in full just so everyone's very clear about what they're voting on. There is one article, Article 13, that requires a paper ballot. So again, when you checked in with the clerks up front, everyone should have gotten a ballot that looks like this. Save that one for Article number 13, and I'll make sure everyone's very clear about when we get there. We can request a paper ballot on any other article this evening, and then it's the will of the body as to whether or not a paper ballot is used. There has to be 10% of the people in the room supporting a paper ballot to take that step. Paper ballots will then be tabulated and set aside for records. So as Ms. Martin just described, the way the budget process is developed, it begins with the superintendent and the budget committee and the school committee. There's a combined committee that works on it. Tonight's meeting is what's called the district budget meeting, where we vote, again, article by article. The articles are closed, and by that I mean they cannot be increased. They may be decreased, but no new articles are permitted. You can only decrease a cost center as a whole, not a specific program or items within it. The second step after tonight is what's called the budget validation referendum, and that's going to be Tuesday, June 13th. That's when you go to your respective town office and you vote in the booth with whatever other issues might be on the ballot for your municipality and the state. Tonight we do an up or down vote on each warrant article. On June 13th, it's an up or down vote, up or down, I got those backwards, up or down, vote on the budget as a whole. And the results are based then on the total number of votes across the entire district. It's not necessarily town by town. It's the total number of votes cast, yay and nay, on the entire across the entire district. If a budget passes, it then goes into effect on July 1st. If a budget is not approved at that second process, the budget that comes out tonight is the budget that we vote on June 13th. If the budget on June 13th does not pass, it goes back to the superintendent and the school committee, back to the drawing board, and they go through the whole process again. We would come back here for another town meeting style district budget meeting, and then to another referendum. So to get things started tonight, the first thing that we do is we swear in the ballot clerks. If someone could signal the ballot clerks to come in from the other room. Oh, you're all right here. Sorry, I thought you were still out in the hallway. I apologize. Would you please stand? Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear to faithfully perform the duties of ballot clerk for the RSU 16 budget meeting in accordance with the Constitution and laws of the state of Maine? Great, thank you very much. I also would like a motion from the floor, if I could, to allow non-resident school personnel to speak during the meeting. Again, in town meeting, only residents of the 3 towns are allowed to speak, but we have a number of non-resident school personnel here: Tina Meserve, John Hawley, Rick Benoit, Ryan Patry, Sean Vincent, Carrie Med, Holly Day, Patrick Flynn, and Kim Spencer. Could I get a motion to allow them? Mr. Beauparlant, I knew you'd be here.
So moved.
Excellent. Oh, Mr. Holbrook beat him. All right, I'll take Mr. Beauparlant as a second. Any discussion on that? Great. All in favor? And opposed? Great. And the motion carries. Thank you very much. I'd now ask the superintendent to take a few moments and provide an overview of the budget.
Before Tina comes up, I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about the foundations on which this budget is based. And it's based on our vision, our mission, and then our specific budget goals. In terms of our vision, that's embedded within our strategic plan, which we developed 5 years ago, which we have faithfully updated each year. And within that, we recognize that our schools and our communities are strongly linked, and that good schools and good communities go hand in hand. And we know that we want our students to graduate from our schools well-equipped for the 21st century. And in order to do that, we need to have budgets that support the programs, the resources, and the opportunities that make that possible, and that ensure that success for our students. We also know as a board, as an RSU, that we have a very strong and committed staff. And we want to provide for our staff a rewarding place to work and place to be. So as a board, we have supported salaries to make us competitive with the towns around us, to get to a point where regionally we're offering our staff the same as other staffs. We're not there yet, but we're working each year to get closer to that. So that is certainly embedded within our strategic plan. And consolidation has worked well for RSU 16, for our towns, for our students, and we want to be a model for other places. We recognize the need to keep working to be the best that we can be for our students, which brings us to our mission. And our mission is about, as I said, preparing and supporting all students. We read it at the beginning of all our board meetings. It provides the focus for all of our work as an RSU, but it also does during the development of our budget. And our goals, our specific goals around budget. They're challenging goals to maintain and support our current programs, which was particularly challenging during this budget development process, meeting the promises of the strategic plan, and being fiscally responsible. And as Tina goes through her presentation, she's going to be specific about showing how we have attempted to meet those goals.
Good evening. I'm Tina Meserve, Superintendent of Schools. And as Mary was sharing, we are always focusing on our 3 goals. And quite often those goals conflict with each other. So it's really difficult to get everything that you need and also be fiscally conservative. So this year, again, was a challenge to do that. We had a lot of things that we needed to add to our budget, and what that required us to do is to make some pretty significant cuts. Our overall budget has a 1.84% increase, and that's a total of $382,950. That's only part of the story, and you will hear the rest of the story as we talk about our budget overall. So our current reality is there were some big changes this year when we were planning for the budget. One of the changes was that there was a new formula used to determine how much money would go into general funding for education. It's always been followed the Central Programs and Services model, and this year there were 48 changes to that model. And that left us with a lot of unknowns, and we're still in that unknown phase where the legislature is working on restoring some money to education, but at this point we don't know if that's going to happen or how much will be going forward. So we have to function with the budget that's before us now. As Mary was saying, we have increasing costs. We do have salary increases. We have insurance increases. We have unfunded mandate that you're going to hear about. And so we have done a lot of cutting to make sure we can cover the costs of some of those other things that we've talked about. So I just want to give you just a small indication of what some of those changes were in the governor's proposed budget to education. There's 3 of them that really have impacted us the most. The first one is the reduction in the teacher-student ratio for the 7th to 12th grade level. Just that alone caused a reduction of $102,933 for the high school. The governor also eliminated system administration, and that includes the superintendent's office, the business office, the board of directors. It includes the costs that we have for our required state audits of our financials. It includes our legal fees. So there are many things that go into this line, and that funding was totally eliminated in the budget this year. And then the last one is the elimination of declining enrollment adjustment. There's always been a formula for supporting schools that have maybe an unexpected decrease in enrollment, and this helps lower the impact on schools all in one year. And we had a significant decrease in our pre-K enrollment last year that resulted in $195,000 decrease in funding for pre-K. And if they had had the declining enrollment adjustment, we wouldn't have lost that money. We also have a declining enrollment at the high school this year, which resulted in $94,000 reduction for our students.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Hediger. I'm the Assistant Superintendent. I've been in the district for 17 years, and I look forward to taking you through some of the parts of our budget. So as Mary said, we have 3 goals, is to maintain and support the current programs. meet the promises of the strategic plan and to be fiscally responsible. So let's talk about maintaining and supporting our current programs. First of all, our goal is to attract and then hire and then retain high-quality teachers that are committed to meeting the needs of all of our students. Teachers are the single most important factor in student achievement, so we want to make sure we attract, retain those teachers. So if we look up on the board up here, we have got our salaries. We are currently 6% below the state, the area average when it comes to salaries. So through the negotiation process and work agreement process, we have an anticipated average 3% raise for all staff. And I just want to make sure that you understand the word average is there. So we look for a fair wage. So if there is someone who's further away from that area average, they would have a higher percentage. Someone who's closer to that area average would have a lower percentage. And that does include our teachers, our support staff, as well as our bus drivers. We do have a retirement as our next piece up there. Is just a little fact, is prior to fiscal year 14, the state paid 100% of our retirement. And so now we fast forward here to 2017, 2018, and as you can see, the total cost for our retirement is just under $400,000. And that's an increase for next year of just over $81,000. Insurance is another cost. As we all know, insurance costs go up, and our increase is approximately 9.4%, or that's $263,000. And our staff will be paying slightly more towards their insurance, 1% to 2% more, and that's a savings of just under $62,000. So we do have very motivated teachers in our district and our support staff as well as bus drivers who want to deliver high quality instructions to students, and they really own our motto of our kids in our schools, and that's why we want to make sure that we can be competitive with area schools. The next area to look at is the special education increases. As you can see, the yellow is the state subsidy. That's the money that we receive from the state, and the grayish, brownish color is what our costs are in RSU 16. As you can see, if we kind of go across the years, the yellow, the state subsidy, has increased over time, but so have our special education costs. And if you look at the fiscal year 18, the furthest one to your right, you can see that there's the bar has increased for the special education for RSU 16, and the state subsidy is further below. And just want to give you an update as to why that is. First of all, our transportation, all of our transportation was under the transportation line, and so that shouldn't be. If we have special ed students requiring special education transportation, then that should be represented in the special education budget. So that's been moved out and moved into the special education line, as well as we try our best to educate our students in our schools, but sometimes that doesn't always the best environment for our students. So after working with principals and teachers and our special ed director, we find that our students need an out-of-district placement. Well, an out-of-district placement comes at a cost. And so we have about 16 kids out of district placement, and so the costs for that are rising.
So as we talked about, it's really important for us to produce a budget that our communities can afford. And so we like to come back to reminding people that part of that work is keeping the increases as low as possible. So last year we had a 1% increase, and this year a 1.84% increase. And we feel like we've done that. We've done a good job offering great programs to our students, but also making sure that when we have extra money in certain areas that we no longer need, that we cut that out so that we can have the money for new demands. So how have we produced the budget for a 1.84% increase when you've seen how much money we've lost through the change in the funding formula? We've done that through reductions in staff primarily, and we're fortunate that we did have some open positions that we have been able to not fill. So we had a full-time foreign language teacher that was an open position. We are able to fill that with a half-time, so we're going to leave the other half-time out, and that's a currently unfilled position. We have one teacher at PCS that was unfilled, and we are not going to need it next year because the class size will be small enough. We have fewer ELL students. We have 3.5 ed techs that are currently unfilled that we won't fill next year. And we had 3 teachers at the high school. We have 2 resignations, and we did have 1 reduction in force. And again, that partly comes with the declining enrollment. So we did not lose any programs for our students with these reductions. We also have made a change. Our assistant superintendent position has been eliminated, and we've changed that to a curriculum coordinator position. That saves money in the salary line. And then we have a part-time secretary in the special ed at the high school that has also been reduced. So there are also other cuts beyond just the staffing that I've shared. And we've cut in all areas, pretty much in every department. We've cut classroom books, although we did shift a good portion of that money into curriculum-specific science and social studies books. So that that wasn't a full loss for the classroom libraries. We've cut professional development in all departments. We have almost no money left in the lines for professional development. Supplies have been reduced to an amount that we feel like our teachers can still do their job. It's not ideal, but we feel like we have a budget that does still support our students. We've reduced how much we're expending on library books. We've done new contracts for cell phones with limited services rather than unlimited services. Fuel lines have been reduced to actual. And then we have held off on a couple of purchases that we wanted, one of them being a heating system at Minot Consolidated School and then ceiling projectors for our science department.
Next up, we'll talk about meeting the promises of the strategic plan. Remember, the strategic plan Mary talked about at the beginning is our vision of our district. It was designed in 2013 and is undergoing an updating process, a very formal one. It is updated every year, but it is being rewritten in certain parts. And that is our roadmap that guides our decision making and sets our priorities, because we want our kids to be the best prepared kids possible going out to either be in college or career ready. So with that comes some new requests. So there's some good news here. Number one is the 2 buses and 1 minivan. We have 3 coming off of lease, so there will be no budget impact with that request. Our next one is a grade 1 position at Elm Street School. This is, right now, we foresee using Title II money through a class size reduction grant. And we believe that having class sizes of mid-20s to upper 20s in grade 1 is just not appropriate. So we really want to make sure that our class sizes are conducive to our earliest learners in grade 1. There is a piece there that you'll see that there's a contingency of $47,000. That is because President Trump has proposed cuts to Title II. So, and that is still on the table right now. So if he does cut Title II funding, then we would not be able to use, we would have the grant, we would have the class size reduction grant. So we want to make sure that we still honor that, because part of our strategic plan is making sure we have resources allocated to where the need is. And the need is at grade 1 at Elm Street School. We'd like to update our financial system, ADS, and that's through an E-rate grant. So again, no budget impact there. The next part is our curriculum development funds, and you'll see that that says it's been shifted to the local. Well, this is work that we've been doing forever. Teachers are always looking at their curriculum work, but we have a systematic plan now in place, and we are really working on clearly articulating our curriculum. And we also want our teachers to be using best practices, research-based, and really making sure that our curriculum, instruction, and assessment are intertwined. So you'll see that those development funds have been shifted to the local, because it's how we do business. So it should be rather than grant funded, it should be part of the local budget. And then finally, you'll see that they're a functional life skills teacher for K-8. This one, it sounds like it's a whole teacher position, but if you remember back from the slide that Tina was talking about, there was 3.5 ed techs that went unfilled. So our plan is our functional life skills has too many students. They need an additional staff member. So rather than filling those 3.5 ed techs, we're going to take those positions and make them into a full-time teacher. So again, we can reduce the class size in our functional life skills program. Not in the budget, but needed. This slide is good, because this is a compilation of all of the principals and directors working together to set our priorities. And we hope that the legislator, and then we're talking about our governor here, will increase the funding line back for education, give us back the money that he's withholding from those 48 lines. We have good reason to believe he's going to do that. And you'll see later on that we'll have a warrant article that we've proposed to you for 40% to lower the tax burden, and then 30% to go into CIP, and then 30% into educational purposes. So if that comes true, there's 2 top priorities, and again, this is decided upon by all of the principals and the directors. And our first priority is a staff position at Elm Street School. We have a great principal, Mr. Patry. If you haven't met him yet, make sure you pop down and see him. He's right here in the front row. And he's got a great staff, and we are looking at what's going on at Elm Street School, and we have a school counselor there right now, and she's there half the time, and she's half the time in Minot. And despite all the best efforts of all of the teachers, we've got great teachers there, our students are still not ready to learn. So, and that's evidenced by our test scores. And so we want to make sure that we give those students the best chance they can at success, and we feel that having a staff position of a social worker or school counselor would help meet those needs so that they can be ready to learn when they're in their classes. And then the final there is professional development, $30,000. You might be saying, well, you got curriculum development, why do you need professional development of $30,000? Well, you heard that was cut, and that's an integral part of our program. We want our curriculum to be able to stand alone and be delivered, but school's changed a bit since we've all been in school, and professional development is really looking at teachers working together, learning together, and sharing their practice together, and it's important to be able to provide opportunities to do that within our own district, and then also to get our teachers outside of our district. So those are our two top priorities that are not in the budget but needed, and hopefully if Governor LePage sends back some of the money, and also if you approve that warrant article, then that's how we would like to use it for the general education purpose.
Good evening. That's a good start. It is my pleasure to share all the numbers with you. As you have been hearing Tina and Mary speak of the change in the funding formula, what you see here on the first line is the result of that for RSU 16. We will be losing over $287,000 in state funding. What happens is that shifts to the locals. I'll talk a little more about that in the next slide. The top section is what's called required local, and that is the amount of money that we must raise as a district, the $8.1 million, in order to receive the $10.3 million from the state that you saw on the prior slide. This amount is set by the state with what's called a mill expectation, and every town and city in the state is required to raise this amount of money to support their budget. That valuation is based on the state's valuation of each town, not the town's valuation. That does not come into play in school funding. There was a slight decrease in the state valuation for Mechanic Falls of just over $1 million, and that's why you see a reduction on the line for them of just about $10,000 from the year before. Both Poland and Minot had a slight increase in state valuation, and so they are required to raise a little bit more. You will see the $8.1 million on Article 12. The additional local is the amount of money raised once all of the expenditure budget is put together and we allocate the revenue side. Any extra that we need is called additional local. This is based on the funding formula that RSU 16 has in place, which currently is 90% valuation, and again, that's state valuation, and 10% enrollment, the number of students sent to the schools from each town. You can see that the local contribution is up 6.4%, as opposed to the 1.84% that Tina talked about with the expenditure budget. And this is just showing again the difference between the expenditure budget and the revenue budget. I'll try to take my time on this slide. This is a little complicated. This is the effect on your tax bill, which I'm sure you'd be very interested in. The mill rate, or the town valuation, I'm sorry, which is not on this slide. Did I put it on this one? Nope. Okay. Sorry, that's okay. This is where the town valuation comes into play. And so the money that the school needs, we assess to the towns, and then they in turn assess to you with the amount they need for your town and and the county. So we can only give you the school side. It's interesting to note that for FY17, both Minot and Mechanic Falls come up to the same assessed value of $1,127 per $100,000 home. I just want to read you the tax bases that I have on this sheet. So Mechanic Falls was $142 million in the 2016 assessment. 2017, it was $146 million. So there was a slight increase on the town side. Again, this is town valuation as opposed to state valuation. We saw a decrease for Mechanic Falls. Minot was $175 million for the 2016 assessment and $176 million for the 2017. Poland was $735 million for the 2016 and $768 million for 2017. Those numbers are figured out by the tax assessor when he goes to each town in August to assess the taxes. And those then equate to the mill rate that is set for each town. And then with that valuation, we use a $100,000 home just for round numbers. Keeping in mind if you have a $200,000 home, you would double those numbers for what the increase would be. This is just the comparison again on the expenditure side of the FY18 budget being up $282,000 on the expenditure side and the $592 on the revenue side. Adult ed, we're just looking to flat fund that, which we have done for several years. The rest of the money for the program comes from grants and the tuition fees that students pay for the classes. The technology reserve, if you recall last year we planned to buy out the laptops this year from the state, and so we raised that $28,000. And so we do not need that this year, so we're asking for $0 in that category. Capital improvement, there are some projects that we have been putting off that need to be done. And also when emergencies come up, we need to be able to pay for a boiler to keep the heat going. So we do need a little bit of money in that category. And the adult ed and the capital improvement will be separate warrant articles that you will vote on, and those equal $349,040.
So I always like to end with a reminder of where we've come from. So you can see in 2009, 8-9, prior to consolidation, we had a $22 million budget. And here we are in 2017-18 proposing a budget to you that is still lower than it was pre-consolidation. The consolidation has saved our communities over $20 million in the last 10 years. I think we are one of the few consolidations in the state that has actually saved significant money for its communities. So we consider this a really successful consolidation. At the same time, our test scores have gone up as a result of consolidation. So we're really proud of the progress that we've made. We're pleased to be adding programs and services back in that were lost at the lowest point of the economy when we were down to a $17 million budget. And when people are asking us whether we're doing due diligence to keep the taxes low, we can always come back to this chart and remind them where we've come from. So that is the overview of our budget for tonight. And I will ask the moderator, Colleen Quint, to come back up, and we will go through each warrant article.
Thank you very much. Do you want to keep that last slide up, or do you want to take that down? All right, everybody ready? Yes, sir. Who was that? Mr. Beckett. I'd like to have a motion on the floor first, if I could. Great. So as I mentioned at the outset, the plan here is I'm going to go through, I'm going to read each warrant article as presented. I'll solicit a motion from the floor and a second. If you move or second, please identify yourself for the record. We'll then have any discussion on that article, close discussion, and then have the vote, okay? All right, here we go. Article 1. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $8,174,197 for regular instruction? May I have a motion? Mr. Beauplan. Thank you, sir. Is there a second on that motion? And, sir, your name? Eldridge, sir? Okay, great. Thank you. Any discussion regarding Article 1? Mr. Beckett. I believe there's a microphone, sir. There's a microphone behind you there, if you don't mind, just so folks can hear you. Thanks, Carl.
I don't know, yeah, must be able to hear me.
Yeah.
I can do it without it, so. I want to congratulate the school committee and the superintendent's office for what they've done here. This whole thing in my mind is extremely onerous to the situation that's going on here. We consolidated, and the last slide you saw there is we're still under what Union 29 used to pay, which is amazing. So we consolidated, and 8 years later, we're still under what we paid 8 years ago. I can't believe it, but it's wonderful. But, as Tina said, we are to be congratulated on the work we've done in consolidation. So you say, what's happened? Well, the state is passing the cost of education back down to the towns. It's very simple to figure out. Not all towns. I can't quite figure that one out. But we're paying more in taxes. They've cut revenue sharing for the municipal part of this, and they've cut the subsidy coming down, and you saw all the numbers they had there, $300,000 or $400,000, and the taxes in Mechanic Falls would go up 72 on 100,000, and so on and so forth. That's not needed. As far as I can understand, I may be wrong, this came from the fact that our Governor LePage saw how nicely we were doing here in Mechanic Falls in our consolidation. So he'd like all towns in the state of Maine to do what we did, consolidate. And I think that's a good idea. Except the fact he took away all kinds of money to force them into consolidation. Everyone with me on that? Well, he would like other towns to consolidate as we did. And over the last 8 years, we've saved $22 million. And that's wonderful. And the state could save money because of that. But we've already consolidated. We've already consolidated. We should be praised. We should get more money for what we've done. So I think it's an onerous situation. And the way to take care of it, as Tina said, you have to speak to the legislature. If nothing is done by the legislature or the governor, the results that were put up on the screen will come about. And all of our taxes will go up. And we will gain nothing per se. We did all those cuts so that the taxes wouldn't be any higher than that. So your representative is Kathleen Dillingham. Your senator is Eric Brakey. And it might be worthwhile for you to make a call to Augusta and ask them why, and I've said this for years, let no good deed go unpunished. Because we saved towns here $22 million. And we should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beckett. Any further comment regarding Article 1? Mr. Beauparlant.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Article 1 is the first one of the evening, but I just wanted to say thank you to all the members and citizens that stepped up to be on the school committee. I know it's a difficult job. I know you've worked hard, but I just want to say thank you. I'm a Poland resident, and a special thanks to your professional team. You have a great team to work with. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further comment regarding warrant article number 1? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All voting in favor of Article 1, which reads, Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $8,174,197 for regular instruction? All voting in favor? Thank you. And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Article 2. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $4,138,476 for special education? May I have a motion regarding Article 2? In the back, sir. Donald, Mr. Drake, you move in favor of this article? Thank you, sir. Is there a second on that motion? Second, Mr. Parent, thank you. Any discussion regarding Article 2? Great, I'll call the question. Article 2, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $4,138,476 for special education? All voting in favor? Thank you, and opposed? And the motion carries. Article 3, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $0 for career and technical education? May I have a motion regarding Article 3? Oh, thank you, Mr. Parent. And is there a second? And Ms. Gilpatrick, thank you, ma'am. Any discussion regarding Article 3? Ms. Martin, do you want to perhaps explain why it is that, or Ms. Meserve, why there's $0 raised?
Well, we don't have a tech center, so.
That's an excellent answer to that question.
I thought it might be a trick question.
Nope. I just, in case someone was wondering, I thought it was worth asking. Great. Thank you. Any discussion regarding Article 3?
Was there any consultation with staff?
Was there any consultation with staff?
About Article 3?
Correct, that's the one we're on, right?
Yeah.
No. I mean, are you asking if we've talked about having our own tech center?
Did you have any input from your teachers in Minot, the Falls, and Bolton?
So we don't have a tech center, so we can't allocate money for the tech center that we don't have.
How about careers? We're the most underpaid teachers in the state, right? In some ways.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's true, but we certainly aren't at the regional average. This is about tech center, or the tech center that students would attend for programs like nursing programs or.
Gotcha.
Great. And I believe we have a relationship with LRTC in Lewiston, is that correct?
Correct.
So that's where students go. Okay. Thank you, sir. Any further questions regarding Article 3? And I'll call the question, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $0 for career and technical education? All in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Article 4, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to spend $546,487 for other instruction? May I have a motion regarding Article 4? Mr. Parent, thank you. And a second.
Second.
Oh, Mr. Holbrook, thank you, sir. Any discussion regarding Article 4? Seeing none, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $546,487 for other instruction? All in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Article 5, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $1,741,785 for student and staff support? May I have a motion? Whoop, I had a couple on that one. I'm going to grab Mr. Parent, because you're right in my line of sight. And who was the second on that? Who was that? Mr. Beaupont, thank you. And is there any discussion regarding Article 5? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
I have a question about the decreases. I know I came in later on, if you could explain the decreases on this.
Ms. Meserve?
For Article, are we on?
Article 5,
Article
student and
5.
staff support.
Yeah, so for the areas of decrease, there have been no changes in our staffing levels. It's just that we have different staff members in those areas, so it could be that a staff member took a different insurance plan or something like that. So basically it's status quo in that overall area. We do have a decrease in technology because we have a new contract. So our new contract with the state is less than what we've been paying for a contract with the state. Let's see. Yeah, all of our guidance staff are the same. It's just different people are taking different insurance packages. The library for staff, that's the next.
Is that the
yeah,
next?
That's in the same article, okay. The libraries, we put in, we did talk about this at the beginning, we have reduced the amount of money that we're allocating for our libraries. And part of that was feeling like we have resourced libraries, and that money needed to be prioritized in other areas.
Thank you. Are there any further questions regarding warrant Article 5? I'll call the question. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $1,741,785 for student and staff support? All in favor? Thank you. And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Article 6. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $541,338 for system administration? May I have a motion regarding Article 6? Mr. Beauparlant, I'll grab the second for Mr. Eldridge. Thank you. Any conversation or discussion regarding Article 6? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $541,338 for system administration? All in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Article 7, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $1,105,273 for school administration? May I have a motion regarding Article 7?
So moved.
Mr. Holbrook, thank you. And Mr. Beauparlant, the second. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Any discussion regarding Article 7?
Can you just specify where the money goes?
Ms. Meserve?
So for school administration, we have the administration at each of our schools. So PCS would have a principal, an assistant principal. They'd have administrative assistants who, or secretaries that answer the phone. There would be materials for the office to run. So if they need, paper and other resources, that would be in the administration line.
Are your salaries public knowledge? I mean, that's what I'm asking about.
Yeah, they can be. If somebody asks for a list of our salaries, we could produce them just like any other. All of our information is open to freedom of access, so people just have to send a note or call into the superintendent's office and we can provide that information.
So this is your salary and the other chief of whom is?
Yeah, not mine. This is school level, so this would be the principals and it would be their administrative assistants.
You're separate from that. That's
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion regarding Article 7? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $1,105,273 for school administration? All in favor? And opposed? Thank you, and the motion carries. Article 8, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $1,445,856 for transportation and buses? May I have a motion regarding Article 8? So moved. Mr. Holbrook, thank you, sir. And a second? Second. And a second, and Ms. Love. Lovely to hear from you. Thank you. Is there any discussion regarding Article 8? There's a question regarding the decrease on that?
The decrease in that line comes from two different areas. We talked about this a little bit in the opening. There were quite a bit of special ed costs in the transportation line that needed to be in the special ed line. So if there are special trips specifically for our special ed programming, they have been moved to the special ed budget so you can see actual costs for special education. There were also 3 monitors, special ed bus monitors in that line that needed to be moved to the special ed line. And then the third area or the second area that we have reduction is in fuel costs. That we reviewed the last few years of fuel costs. We put the number closer to actual, of course with a little buffer there because fuel cost is unpredictable and you never know when those are going to spike up. But those were our major adjustments in the transportation.
So bus drivers are saying,
Yep, there's been no change in bus drivers. I think we've actually added a bus driver this year, so there've been no reductions in the number of bus drivers we have.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions or comment? I'm sorry, does somebody have a comment? Great, I'll call the question. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $1,445,856 for transportation and buses? All in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Article 9, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $2,459,579 for facilities and maintenance? May I have a motion regarding Article 9?
Second.
Whoop. I got Mr. Beauparlant and Mr. Holbrook. There may have been others involved, but those are the ones I got. Any discussion regarding Article 9?
System-wide.
There we go. Any additional questions regarding Article 9? I'll call the question. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $2,459,579 for facilities maintenance? All in favor? And opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. Article 10, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $900,000 for debt service and other commitments? A motion regarding Article 10? Mr. Holbrook, and a second on that. Mr. Parent, thank you. Any discussion regarding Article 10? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $900,000 for debt service and other commitments? All in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Article 11, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $151,994 for all other expenditures? Motion. Mr. Holbrook, thank you. And a second on that, Mr. Parent, thank you. Any question or discussion regarding Article 11? In the back, ma'am. Was there, what was her, what's in contingency? Of course. In contingency, Ms. Meserve?
We have one teaching position in contingency. That's in case we lose the grant funds from the federal government for the class size reduction at Elm Street School. So that one teaching position is approximately $50,000. And that's a position that we feel is essential. So if we can't use the grant money for it, we really need to have that in our general budget. So that's set aside for that purpose. We're also watching our pre-K numbers. Right now, we have a waiting list, or a pretty big list of students for pre-K for Poland Community School. So if we need staff, of course, we want to have a little bit of money there for that purpose. And then the other thing that's in the contingency fund is we have several contracts that are not finalized yet. So bus drivers, central office, and all non-represented staff are not completed yet. So that is some money there to pay for any raises that occur between now and July 1st.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions regarding Article 11? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend $151,994 for all other expenditures? All in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Now, as you may have noticed, the first 11 warrant articles were all about expenditures, but to spend the money, we need to raise the money, and so that's what the next two articles have to do. So Article 12, bear with me, this is a long article, and I'm required to read it in full. Article 12 reads as follows. Shall Regional School Unit 16 appropriate $18,494,168 for the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and shall Regional School Unit 16 raise $8,151,281 and assess the amount set forth below as each municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15688. The recommended amounts are set forth as follows. Make sure I turn to the correct page. These are total amounts by municipality. In Poland, the total appropriated amount is $9,329,366, and the total raised in Poland would be $5,434,647. In Mechanic Falls, the total appropriated amount would be $5,095,271, and the total raised in Mechanic Falls, $1,220,703. And in Minot, the total appropriated $4,069,531, and the total raised $1,495,931, for a total appropriate amount of $18,494,168 for the district, and a total raised for RSU 16, $8,151,281. And here's the explanation for all of that. Regional School Unit 16's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, is the amount of money determined by state law to be the minimum amount that the district must raise and assess in order to receive the full amount of state dollars. These amounts are set forth in other documents. Anyone who would like to make a motion regarding Article 12 may simply say, "So moved." Mr. Holbrook, and I'll give Mr. Weissman here the second on that. So Holbrook and Weissman. Is there any discussion regarding? I know you have that memorized, Steve. Any other discussion regarding Article 12? I'll call the question. All in favor of Article 12 as read and moved? Thank you very much. And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we get to Article 13. Article 13 is the one that requires your handy-dandy written ballot, like this one. So the same thing, I'm going to read the article. I'm going to call for a warrant that can, for a motion rather, that can simply say, "So moved." We'll have any discussion, and then after the discussion, I'll call the vote, and then people will fill out their ballots and bring them right down here to the front. So the written ballot is required for Article 13, which reads, shall Regional School Unit 16 raise and appropriate $2,251,162 in additional local funds, which exceeds the state's Essential Programs and Services allocation model by $1,848,291, as required to fund the budget recommended by the RSU 16 Board of Directors. The RSU 16 Board of Directors recommends $2,251,160 for additional local funds and gives the following reasons for exceeding the state's Essential Programs and Services funding model by $1,848,291. To wit, this amount is needed to cover costs of RSU 16 schools that the state's funding model does not recognize and has reduced or eliminated from the funding formula. And again, the explanation. The additional local funds are those locally raised funds over and above the Regional School Unit 16 local contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act that will help achieve RSU 16's budget for educational programs. May I have a motion? Mr. Beauperlant. And a second on that. Second. Well, I got Mr. Beckett. He beats to it, Joe. Any further discussion regarding Article 13? If not, I'll call the question. Please complete your paper ballot, bring it to the front, and we'll wait a few minutes while the votes are tallied. The motion carries. The vote was 100 to 4. All right. Moving on to Article 14. This article summarizes the proposed budget. Here's Article 14. Again, when I have to read the whole thing, and when I'm done, someone can just say so moved. Article 14, shall Regional School Unit 16 authorize the RSU 16 Board of Directors to expend $21,204,985 for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018 from Regional School Unit 16's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes Statutes, Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools. Here's the explanation. A school administrative unit must include a summary article indicating a total annual budget for funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 in Regional School Unit 16. The amount must be the gross budget of the school system. This article does not provide money unless other articles are approved. Luckily for our purposes, other articles have been approved, so we could take a motion on Article 14. Mr. Wiseman, I see you there. Thank you, sir. And a second on that? Mr. Beckett, thank you. Is there any discussion regarding Article 14? Seeing none, all in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Article 15, to see if Regional School Unit 16 will appropriate $208,624 for adult education and raise $70,000 as the local share for the year beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30, 2018, with authorization to expend any additional incidental or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and well-being of the adult education program. May I have a motion regarding Article 15? Ms. Gilpatrick, thank you, ma'am. And a second on that motion. In the back, I'm sorry, sir, remind me your name? Mr. Drake, thank you, sir. Any discussion regarding Article 15? Seeing one, I'll call the question. All in favor of Article 15 regarding adult education? And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Articles 16 and 17 authorize expenditures from reserve funds. Article 16 reads as follows. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to raise $279,040 for the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund? We have a motion regarding Article 16.
So moved.
Mr. Holbrook, thank you. Second. Mr. Beauplan, thank you. Any discussion regarding Article 16? All right. I'll call the question. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to raise $279,040 for capital improvement reserve funds? All in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Article 17, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend up to $304,040 from the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund?
So moved.
I get Mr. Holbrook and Mr. Wiseman on that. Thank you. Any discussion regarding Article 17? All right. Shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend up to $304,040 from the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund? All in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Article 18. Articles 18 and 19 authorize expenditures of grants and other receipts. Article 18, in the event that Regional School Unit 16 receives more state subsidy than the amount included in its budget, shall the school board be authorized to use all or part of the additional state subsidy to increase expenditures for school purposes in cost center categories approved by the school board, increase the allocation of finances in a reserve fund approved by the school board, and or decrease the local cost share expectation as defined in 20A, section 15671, sub A1B, for local property taxpayers for funding public education by the school board. The recommended amount is as follows. Tax relief 40%, increased expenditures 30%, CIP reserve 30%. And I have the following explanation. In 2016, the legislature passed a bill that allows a school district to include an article in the warrant for its annual budget meeting that says in the event a district receives more state subsidy than expected, the school board can, without a special budget meeting and budget validation referendum, increase expenditures for school purposes in approved cost centers, decrease the local tax rate for education, or increase revenues. The law addresses the problem that typically happens every 2 years when the legislature, late in the session, passes the state budget after districts have approved their budget for local level based on GPA estimates. Could I have a motion regarding Article 18? Thank you, Mr. Beauperlon and Mr. Beckett. Is there any discussion regarding Article 18? Yes, ma'am. Could someone speak to that? Ms. Meserve?
The Budget Committee reviewed the requests that we currently have in for the budget and felt like we have some needs that aren't being met with the current budget that we have. So our recommendation from the Budget Committee and then approved by our school board was that 30% of that would go to bolster our CIP account, which we feel is dangerously low. And also, we feel strongly that Elm Street School needs a guidance counselor, an additional staff member, and also we need some professional development money for our staff. So we feel like by splitting it up 40-30-30, we're doing all of the things that we feel like we need to do with this budget, which is be fiscally responsible and send 40% of that back to our communities, but not forget the needs of our students. And so that's how we came up with that decision that has been supported along the way with the administrative team, to the Budget Committee, and then finally to our school board.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion regarding Article 18? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of Article 18 as recommended? And opposed? And the motion carries. Article 19, we're on the last page. Here we go. Article 19. In addition to amounts approved in the preceding articles, shall Regional School Unit 16 be authorized to expend federal funds that may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for school purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated. And I'm going to amend that because I believe it should be authorized to expend federal or state funds that may be received. I just realized I'm missing a word there. I apologize. So in other words, this article, I believe, allows other monies that come in outside of the typical sources to be expended if they're received. Can I have a motion regarding Article 19? Whoa, everyone's there. All right. Mr. Parent, Mr. Holbrook, I'm going to give you the honor of the last motion in just a moment. Mr. Holbrook moved and Mr. Holbrook seconded the passage of Article 19 as written. Is there any discussion regarding Article 19? All in favor? And opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Holbrook, I believe we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. A second on that? Mr. Parent? All in favor? No discussion. Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Just before you go, I'd just like to remind you that this is a two-step approval process. So just want to remind you what we have up there about June 13th, and that absentee ballots are available. And also want to thank Mrs. Quint for helping us this evening. Thank you.